Hello and welcome everybody. When we are talking about low self-esteem, we have to go back to childhood because this is where it's originated and this is where then also the final resolution will happen. Now, if you are really after a final resolution and if you want to work through that on an emotional level, I have put together a healing meditation that you can find in the video description below. This video can give you understanding, which is necessary, but the healing meditation will lead you to an inner process. I'm not saying that to sell you on anything because it's free. I just know this can help you. So with this being said, let's start right now. As I said, when we talk about overcoming low self-esteem, we have to go back in childhood. And the first step to that is to understand. Really understanding why we're developing a low self-esteem. Not seeing this as something that is wrong with me, but something that I did for a specific reason. And the reason is that when we were children, there is a dynamic between our parents and us, right? And when we as children feel we were not quite getting the love that we wanted, or it is not being shown in the way that we wanted it, then we develop a low self-esteem. Here's what we need to understand. There are two top needs of a child. Number one is security, and number two is love. Children want love, but they want even more so the sense of security, that the family is stable, that the parents are good caretakers, and that you can basically trust them. Now let's come back to the thought that we didn't finish off earlier. We said low self-esteem is a protection mechanism. It kicks in order to serve our need for security, right? Here's the thing. When the child doesn't receive the love that it wants or not in the way that it wants, it develops a low self-esteem. It needs to believe, okay, if I am not being loved, then this must be because there's something wrong with me for not feeling the love, right? The child cannot perceive and comprehend that it is my parents who are caught up in their own emotional issues. They can't express their love in the way that I want to receive it, or they can't express their love at all, that this is something that happens inside of their heads, right? For a child, it is crucially important to see the parents basically as perfect caretakers, which serves for giving the illusion of security. To make it crystal clear, I would like you to understand this dynamic because this is where all of the low self-esteem issues like jealousy or being cheated on or finding yourself in an abusive relationship, all of those things and a very unhealthy self-image, where all of those things originate from this initial dynamic of feeling, okay, there was not as much love coming towards me. And then the reasoning that the child makes, this is because that there is something wrong with me, right? When the child believes that, because it's something wrong with me, then it can keep up the illusion of stability and security in the family. And this is what the child's utmost top need is, to feel secure and feel it can trust the parents. If it felt I can't trust my parents, then the whole world would collapse for the child and it would really stifle its healthy development and the child would emotionally die inside, right? So the child needs to assume I am worthless, I am not good enough, right? I am not worth enough in order to gain my parents' love, so that it can then feel, okay, basically the family environment is secure and it's safe. And my parents can be trusted and they are good caretakers. It is just that I am not deserving it and that's why I'm not feeling their love. This is what the child needs to reason in order to keep up the illusion and the concept of security in the family. When we understand that, we really get to the core. We get to the core of what our own issue is for self-esteem. Ask yourself, tune in with yourself and really ask yourself, where was I not really feeling the love that I wanted? You know, what were the situations? Was it more with my mother or was it more with my father? And then funnily enough, the person whose love was most scarce, we craved the most and we adapted the most towards meeting their expectations. So you will on one hand understand how low self-esteem is being formed, and on the other hand, all the other things that you are doing in order to please somebody, right, in order to be a certain way. When we think about emotions, for example, my father didn't encourage anger. So I learned that being angry is a bad thing. So I never wanted to argue with anybody, and in fact even right now in relationships with people, arguing is something that doesn't come easy to me, really colliding and like speaking out things, you know what I mean? This is the way Our parental expectations shape us. It all comes down to not feeling the love that we wanted, and then we adapt in a certain way. Now, connected to low self-esteem in childhood, we need to see that our low self-esteem didn't come from being bullied in middle school, didn't come from being dumped and cheated on at age 21, or whatever happened. It came from this initial trauma of feeling the love doesn't quite come. So I need to assume I'm worthless in order to protect myself and keep up the illusion of safety. Does that make sense? Let us come to the second step now, and this is appreciation. Now, once we've understood where our low self-esteem is coming from, now let's go into actually doing something about it, right? So it can change. The first step for that is appreciation, really seeing that, okay, when I was young and I developed this unhealthy sense of self-esteem, it is not because there's something wrong with me or I'm flawed or I always had that or something like that. It was a protection mechanism. There's nothing about that we need to make ourselves wrong for feeling that and for experiencing this low self-esteem and all its different symptoms, right? So we have to start with appreciation. It got us through this incredibly harsh time of feeling not loved or not in the way that we wanted, but feeling protected nonetheless. So we could have like a kind of healthy development as a child because our need for security was being met, our need for love was not met. And the only reason why we could explain this dichotomy, right? The security that we need to feel, that illusion that we've built, we only can, have that when we believe we are worthless and this is the reason why we don't feel love, or we're not good enough, or we're only worthy unless. Like worthless is for some people too strong of a word, but it's conditional, right? I need to be a certain way in order to be loved. And we need to appreciate that back then it really served its purpose. It got me through a hard time, but right now I can see these things from an adult perspective and understand now it doesn't serve me anymore, right? It used to serve me back then. I can appreciate that, but now it's actually standing in the way. Because what we wanted back then from thinking and believing our own thoughts about our low self-esteem, right, about our next to non-existent self-worth or conditional sense of self-worth, I'm only worthy unless. The only reason why we would do that, as I said, was because we needed to feel secure. Back then. So our need was security. Right now in your adult life, ask yourself, is that really giving you more security or is it giving you actually insecurity in yourself? Right? As children, we build up this security on the outside by being very insecure on the inside. Now we can really shift that and we see we don't need that anymore. We don't need to be insecure within because frankly, right now in adult life, when we have to take care of ourselves, inner insecurities actually lead to a lot of insecurity and instability on the outside, and this is what we need to let go. So once we see that, on number one, that we start with appreciation, going within, and that's what we will be doing in the healing meditation, going within and seeing like, yes, it served me. Thank you for that. Thank you for my ingenuity of coming up with this reasoning that I'm worthless in order to protect myself. Thank you for that. And then I'm also seeing that from a mental perspective, like right now, it doesn't serve me. Everything that I wanted with believing in this way was met in childhood. Right now it leads to the exact opposite. And this is where we usually get then the emotional charge to actually change that. And now let's talk about the last thing. Feeling brings resolution. I hope you can see that. It's a bit dark out here. Feeling brings resolution. When we want to change something, we need to feel. This is why I introduced this healing meditation to you, because it's very unlikely that by watching this video with your open eyes, you will get into this inner process that is necessary to touch upon those emotions and resolve that. But here is where the healing happens. As we said, first of all, we got to understand, right? We did know where this actually came from, what the dynamics are in our family and all that. And then appreciation, seeing that, okay, it served me back then, but right now, not anymore. And now we need to see that feeling brings the resolution, tuning in with those initial traumatic feelings of not getting the love, the terror that would come from feeling, okay, I don't have the security that I want in my family. Like the emotions are stored in the body. You might not have any conscious memory of that, but the emotions are stored in the body. You can still access those emotions. And quite interestingly, usually when a situation arises right now in adult life that resembles those initial emotions, we can feel both of them in the same quality. So usually when we go through these inner processes, like in the healing meditation, we touch upon some certain emotions, like being jealous, for example, which is very connected to low self-esteem, right? Or feeling like I'm being betrayed, all of those things, people are taking advantage of me. And those things, they will lead us into the deeper layers of childhood emotions that were traumatic, that were not fully felt through, because emotionally they're connected, right? Our emotions don't know any time. You feel something 30 years later, there you were 6 years old, now you're 36, but emotionally they're connected in the body, right? And this is when we can access them. So feeling brings the resolution. In order to bring that to a conclusion now, to a resolution as well, as I said, understanding, the first thing. If you haven't quite gotten it, or if I haven't explained that in a very clear and concise way, go through this video again or watch some of my other videos where I've explained this dynamic. Then we need to start appreciating that, right? Nothing can change when we are in resistance, in opposition with things. We need to start from a place of appreciation. And it's not phony and it's not positive thinking. It is just seeing that back then it really was an ingenious strategy, that's the word, an ingenious strategy to come up to protect us. Yeah? Starting with that, because as I said, nothing can happen and nothing can change when we're in resistance and in opposition with something. And then feeling brings the resolution. Seeing that, okay, in order to heal that, now that I know what I'm actually healing, right? And where it came from. Now we see the first step is always appreciation, which leads to like a great relief because there's not something that's wrong with you, but then also to understand when healing happens, it is always because the emotions were fully felt through and released. This is when healing happens. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions, please comment below it. If you had any breakthroughs, feel inspired to comment below. Because you can be a medicine to other people by you really sharing things from your heart. Other people feel inspired to do also. And maybe you come up with some reasoning or like with some insight that some other person might need. So thank you very much and I wish you a beautiful day.
Hey now, take a step outside and seize the day now. Set aside your worries, it's okay now. The sun is here to stay.